Time now for Money Matters, where we talk about some of the biggest stories impacting your wallet this week. I'm Jonathan Martin. Well, first, the Atlanta Beltline says it is ahead of its goal to bring more affordable housing to the city. This comes as the cost to rent in Georgia has risen at its fastest pace since the 1980s. In 2023, developers added more than 400 affordable units near the Beltline. That brings the total number of new units to more than 3,500. And this year, there are plans to add 500 more. So the goal is to line the corridor with 5,600 affordable housing units by 2030. Some more good news for renters across Metro Atlanta. Rental rates are showing a slight decrease. 11 Alive's Erica Murphy shares what could be contributing to this trend.
Rental prices across Metro Atlanta are on the way down. According to Rent.com, the average rent in December of 2023 was more than $1,600. That's just about 4.5% less than during the same time in 2022. Rohan Gadari is a finance professor at Emory University. He says one of the reasons we're seeing a decline has to do with bureaucracy.
There's always a lag between when the demand picks up and when the permits for some of these units are given out and when the construction starts.
Gadari says a slight dip in rental prices can also be traced back in part to the pandemic, but says several things would have to happen to see a continued drop in rental prices.
You'll see more and more demand for buying homes, which is going to take away demand from the rental market, and that's going to then lead prices to go down. And at the same time, if the supply of rental properties increases, that's again going to push the rental prices down.
Community housing advocate Ron Shakir says that he hopes that rent continues to fall because many people have been forced out of communities due to lack of affordability.
I think it's a market correction, and it need to be, because I think we underestimated the housing community that lived in public housing, what kind of asset they were in the city.
Reporting from Atlanta, Erica Murphy, 11 Alive News.
With home prices and mortgage rates still historically high, the American dream may no longer be tied to home ownership. A new report says more than a third of renters say they never plan to buy a home. That's according to a survey from rental platform Zumper. So if you've joined the ranks of forever renters, we have some money moves that could make this right for you right now. One, make the rent work for you. Typically, paying with a credit card isn't a smart financial move, but there are cards that allow you to pay without a fee and qualify for rewards points. Two, get renter's insurance. Insurance is critical if there's ever a robbery or a fire, so you can get reimbursed if you have to relocate because of a disaster. And some policies also start as low as $5 a month. Finally, start saving for retirement. If your employer offers a 401k, take full advantage of it. You may also want to put more money into a retirement account like an IRA or Roth IRA. The city of Atlanta announced nearly $5 million to expand options for those experiencing homelessness. 11 Alive's Grace King shows us how that money could help.
Get them what they need.
On Wednesday, Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens reaffirming his goal to get 500 people experiencing homelessness off the streets by the end of next year. He signed an executive order allocating $4.6 million to various city departments so they can expand shelter services and warming centers with the security and wraparound services needed to make those efforts a success. Partners for Home CEO Catherine Bassel says this is an important step forward for Atlanta.
The research and evidence is overwhelmingly and abundantly clear that housing is the solution to ending homelessness, and not housing alone, but housing with the right complement of wraparound supportive services to help individuals as they transition out of homelessness into safe, affordable housing.
The executive order funding will add to the city efforts already underway, like this rapid housing site that opens on Friday. It will provide temporary housing and resources to those experiencing homelessness. In downtown Atlanta, Grace King, 11 Alive News.
A study is highlighting the wealth gap between white families and black families here in the city of Atlanta. It shows black families have 3 times less wealth. 11 Alive's Karis Belger spoke with community advocates about why this is and what's being done to address the issue.
Atlanta is thought of as a mecca where any black person can succeed.
I was a former classroom teacher.
Bijane Kareem has learned that's not the case.
It's been documented, particularly here in Atlanta, that there is a racial wealth gap that also lends itself into the school system as well.
This former educator literally wrote the book to help close the gap.
And this shows teachers how they don't have to spend out of their pocket to get the resources that they need for their classroom in 12 quick steps.
And now Kareem uses that book to teach others.
I'm also seeing small groups working together, practicing writing parts of a grant that they're going to apply for.
Grants to set classrooms up for success, leveling the playing field so students can have a better financial future.
Providing children with spaces that have high quality resources, innovative learning, helps to close that wealth equity gap.
A gap directly impacting Atlanta's Black community. A recent study from the Atlanta Wealth Building Initiative found white families in Atlanta have 3 times more wealth than Black families, a problem Lauren Priest wants to solve.
I think Atlanta faces the same problems that the rest of the country does. It goes from everything from historical context like redlining and really intentional and legal discrimination to current context, continued housing discrimination.
Priest understands.
As a single parent, I wish that I would have had this type of resource when I was living in poverty.
And now, through the charity she works for, she gives people the resources she dreamed of. People like Kareem.
I'm going down memory lane and looking through my phone.
Who got $5,000 to keep helping teachers.
It's a victory, it's a win, and we're all cheering.
So Kareem can teach tools to fund brighter futures. In Atlanta, Kara Spelger, 11 Alive News.
We saw a lot of economic growth at the end of 2023, but the U.S. Treasury Secretary says it is still too hard to be a working parent in America. She recently outlined ways she hopes federal economic policy can help, but millions of Americans are still looking for relief right now. 11 Alive's Ron Jones has a closer look.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen in Chicago Thursday, addressing a topic that hits home for millions of Americans.
It's still too hard to be a working parent.
The speech, an effort to highlight administration economic policy as President Joe Biden campaigns for a second term. But polls show American voters are skeptical about Biden's handling of the economy, despite cooling inflation and a resilient job market. Families in particular feeling the pressures of a challenging housing market and child care costs that have increased with demand and shorter post-pandemic supply.
Child care is exceedingly expensive right now in this country, and that makes it difficult for families to work.
Wendy Edelberg of the Brookings Institution says the child care system suffers from underinvestment, from training to retaining workers.
There's a lot of turnover in this system. It is difficult for a child care facility to maintain stable, high-quality child care in the face of all of these pressures.
Meanwhile, a tight housing market continues to vex homebuyers, but especially families. Edelberg says relief is less about the strength of the economy and more about the policies within it.
There's a lot that we should be doing to make it easier both to work and to raise children, and to make it more worthwhile to work.
The Commerce Department said Thursday that consumers continued to spend in the last 3 months of 2023, with economic growth rising at an annualized rate of 3.3%.
Tax season is here, and the IRS has officially started accepting and processing 2023 returns. There are some significant changes this year that could mean more money in your wallet. Reporter Jen Sullivan explains ways that you can earn a bigger tax refund.
You may be receiving your W-2 form soon if you haven't already. And while the tax deadline is still a few months away, tax experts recommend filing your taxes early.
Get your taxes in.
As you begin to fill out your 2023 taxes, you may notice some differences. The IRS made several changes to the income tax brackets to help adjust for inflation.
They adjust certain tax benefits every year, but for tax year 2023 is the most they've been adjusted up in decades.
This means you may end up with a bigger refund. Here's why. In 2022, a person filing as single, earning between $41,766 to $89,075, paid 22% of their income to the IRS. In 2023, though, that tax bracket jumped to $44,726 to $95,375. That's a 7% change. Other changes? The amount of money you can claim in energy credits.
We always had the electric vehicle credit for up to $7,500, but there's also a credit for used electric vehicles now up to $4,000.
If you've made energy efficient improvements to your home, like installing new windows, you can also claim up to $1,200 in credits with no lifetime limits instead of $500, which is what it was previously. There's also changes in tax credits for families.
If you're a family with 3 kids, it's $7,430.
So how much money can you expect to receive back? Last year, the IRS says the average refund was $3,039. But with the tax bracket changes, you can expect more. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
If you had to spend $1,000 on an emergency expense right now, could you afford it? Well, a new report from Bankrate finds just 44% of Americans say they have enough in savings to afford this emergency expense. 35% say they would have to borrow the money. This includes using a credit card, borrowing from family or friends, or taking out a personal loan. There's also here a generational difference. Baby boomers say they are far more likely to be able to use their savings for an emergency expense compared to younger generations. As we kick off a new year, it's important to take time to prepare not only your finances, but also your children's. You may have experienced the consequences of poor money management. So to help your kids avoid these pitfalls, money experts say start teaching financial literacy now.
We think we need to wait till our kids are older, and then what happens is we never teach them at all. But kids really can start learning at any age, because the idea is, like, the most basic principle of financial literacy is choice. And we can teach that to even really young kids that don't even understand math.
So Forbes defines financial literacy as the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills such as budgeting and saving. A new survey conducted by the National Financial Educators Council found that the lack of financial literacy cost Americans more than $388 billion in 2023. Money experts say the best ways to teach your children the importance of money is to emphasize saving, help them set a budget, and encourage them to spend money on things that make them happy.
If you want this teddy bear, for example, that's going to be 10 chocolate bars. Or you want to go ice skating, that's going to be 1 Lego set. And so then in their minds, they can already start to see, oh, this is what I'm giving up, or this is the equivalent cost. And just those simple lessons go a long way towards really understanding money.
Many state governments are also taking steps to support financial literacy in schools. Georgia passed laws requiring at least a half credit course in personal finance in high school.